Our scripture for today is Luke 10:25-37. One day an expert in religious law stood up to test Jesus by asking him this question.
Teacher, what should I do to inherit eternal life?
Jesus replied,
What does the law of Moses say? How do you read it?
You must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, all your strength, and all your mind, and love your neighbor as yourself.
Right. Do this and you will live.
The man wanted to justify his actions, so he asked Jesus,
And who is my neighbor?
There's something I want you to listen to.
Welcome to the New Day Show. I am your host, your talk host today, and it's wonderful how many people are here in our studio audience, and we are also grateful for those of you tuned in on your TV sets. Those of you who watch this show every day know that we are in the middle of a series entitled Dangerous Places in Wayne County, Ohio. Now, the reason we are doing that series is that there are places where it just does not have a good reputation. You can really get hurt easily. And we wanted to bring it out into the open where these places are, and hopefully our community leaders, our law enforcement officers will be proactive and will address these troublesome places before more entry happens. The latest thing that happened, and you probably read about it in the newspaper and heard it on the evening news, it happened about a week ago. A gentleman was traveling on the old canal road that leads from Stark County and meanders into Wayne County. That's a very secluded road, and when he was on that road, he was attacked by men who beat him brutally. Not only that, they stole all his money. My friends, this has got to stop. That's why we're doing this series. Wayne County needs to be a safe place for our residents, as well as for visitors traveling through. I am so pleased that the man who was brutally attacked is willing to come and be a guest on my show today. He just got out of the hospital and not feeling very well, but is willing to come to give you a first-person account of what that was like to be beat up so brutally. Now, the men who did this left him lying on the road and disappeared. The police have no clues who it might have been. For that reason, our guest today wishes that we do not disclose his real name. He's living in fear that these men may come back to him and retaliate for him talking about what happened. So we certainly want to honor that request, and we will call him by a name that is not his. So please join me and let's give a warm welcome to the man that we will call Kenneth. I didn't think about the steps. Is there a gentleman out there that would, just wait, is there a gentleman out there that would be willing to just help him up the steps and into his chair, and then you can sit it down again? Somebody? Oh, wonderful. Can you sit down?
I'll try to.
I brought a pillow. Thank you very much for helping him. Would a pillow help, do you think?
Yes, please.
How's that?
Down a little bit further. Thank you.
Kenneth, I want to begin just saying how sorry I am that this happened to you. And I'm sure the studio audience would agree with that. It just doesn't seem right. I mean, you are beat up literally all over, and I am so sorry.
Well, thank you, and I probably really shouldn't be here.
When Kenneth agreed to come, when he was willing to do this, I made out a list of questions that I was going to ask him so that he would have a chance to kind of reflect on what all happened and write down a few things. You know, when something traumatic happens to you that way, both physically and emotionally, sometimes it's hard to think clearly and to say what you want to say. So I think Kenneth has taken some notes and will refer to those. Kenneth, let me begin. Give me a little background. Why were you on this road?
Well, I had to get to Orville some way, and my mother is at Orvilla, and I was going to the Orvilla retirement community, and I was going to go to Orville to deposit some money into my mother's bank account because her Social Security doesn't quite make it for the cost. So every once in a while, I'll supplement her money. And I decided that I would take it to the bank rather than get it there some other way. Bad decision.
Now, Kenneth, were you aware that this road that you took is notorious for being a dangerous place to travel? For you that do not know about Old Canal Road, it's, I told you, it's very secluded. It winds, has a lot of twists and curves, and there are swampy areas along the way. And every so often, there will be very dense wooded areas on both sides of the road with underbrush under the trees. And very, very few cars travel on that road. And there certainly are not any houses along the way. So it is notorious for not being a safe place to travel. In fact, I heard, I don't know if this is true, I heard that there are even blood stains left on the side of the road from people who have gotten injured. So were you aware of all this?
Yes, I knew that. But, you know, you never think it's going to happen to you. And so I decided, I have an old Harley that I like to get out every once in a while. And so I decided that I was going to have an enjoyable ride to Orville, about 20 miles, and that I could just relax and enjoy a fun excursion.
Yeah. So you're cruising along, enjoying the scenery, and then what happened?
Well, as I was going along, I saw a row of large rocks, and I saw them only after I was going around the corner. I was going about 45 miles an hour on my Harley. And these rocks all of a sudden came on me. And I hit them. And I went up into the air, and it threw my cycle off balance. And when I came down, it was a mess. I came down and hit the pavement. I think my cycle was airborne for a bit. I was in a daze after sliding on the pavement for a bit. But I was still conscious. You know, sliding on the pavement is like sandpaper. It just tears at your skin.
Well, Kenneth, seeing how banged up you are, it's a wonder you were not killed.
Yes, I know. I could see my cycle off to the side, all twisted up, and all at once, out of nowhere, a couple of men came out from the bushes and came after me. And I remember thinking, why are you coming after me? I'm already in terrible pain and can barely move.
Oh, it must be very hard for you to relive this whole thing.
For sure. They had some sort of stick or club, and they beat me unmercifully.
Oh,
I begged them to stop. And then I felt one of them reach into my pocket and pull out my wallet. They took all of my cash and the cash that I was also going to give my mother.
oh, I am so sorry, Kenneth. I am so sorry.
I thought I was going to die. In fact, in some ways, I wanted to die. It felt so horrible.
Well, like I said, there are not many cars that go on that road. So, did somebody stop and help you?
Yes. Well, after I laid there a while, I heard a car put on his brakes. In spite of my agony, I recognized the man as a pastor of one of the big churches in Akron.
Oh, wonderful.
I silently thank God for sending this man to help me.
So, did he carry you to his car, or what happened?
No. He walked over to me. He looked at me and made some comment like, "Oh, you poor soul."
Oh,
And then he walked back to his car and drove off. I thought I must be hallucinating, that he really wasn't there at all.
That's terrible. What was that pastor's name?
I don't want to say.
Well, what church did he represent?
Please don't ask. I don't want to say.
Well, Kenneth, you must have just given up.
Yes, I could barely move. I knew I was bleeding and every bone in my body was screaming in pain. I knew I had broken my leg and arm. And then a little while later, another car came along. I couldn't believe it.
Oh, how fortunate. You know, that road is not traveled much. How fortunate for you.
You would think so, but not really. A woman pulled her car right up to where I was lying. She got out of her car. I couldn't believe it that I was able to read a sticker on her car, and it said, "Helping others pleases God." On the bottom was the name of a seminary. She walked over to me and just stared. I must have looked awful. I pleaded with her to take me to the hospital, but she just got back into her car and left.
Unbelievable. I have to ask, what seminary was listed on that bumper sticker?
Please, Enid, don't ask me those questions.
It's just so terrible. Well, obviously you got help from someone. You just got out of the hospital. How did you get there?
Well, after that woman drove away, I felt myself slipping away. I couldn't keep my eyes open any longer, and all I wanted to do was sleep.
That about makes me cry. So, did you come around a little bit, or what happened?
Well, I didn't hear any car pull up, but I became aware of somebody wiping the blood from my eyes and putting bandages on my gashes. Again, I thought I was hallucinating. Then he began to talk to me with a gentle and kind voice, saying, "He will take care of me."
Oh my.
Thank you.
Well, who was this man?
I don't know. I never did get the man's name. I forced myself to open my eyes, and it was obvious he was a man from the Middle East. He was so kind. I never did get his name.
So, oh, I'm sorry, Kenneth. This is hard.
Believe it.
How did he help you?
He was apologizing all over the place that he forgot his cell phone. He carefully picked me up and carried me to his car, not caring that I might get blood on the upholstery. I was screaming with pain, but oh, so grateful for his kindness.
Well, I can believe it. Now, he took you to the hospital in Orville, is that right?
Yes, he did, and they did all kinds of x-rays and tests, and I finally did get some relief from painkillers that they gave me.
So, did you see this man again?
No, I didn't. I wish I knew his name and where he lives. After I was feeling a little better, a a woman came from the hospital billing department. She came into my room and told me not to worry about my bills, that this man had stopped by and made a payment in my behalf. Then he told them that he will personally cover all expenses and that they should keep me in the hospital as long as necessary. I couldn't believe that.
Take your time, Kenneth.
He had no idea of my situation. I had no insurance. And my savings account is non-existent. My job does not offer any benefits, and I neglected getting insurance. Also, I'm trying to help my mom, who's needing some money as well. I can't believe he helped me like that. What a gift.
My friends, I don't know if it's true for you, but for me, this has been a holy moment. I've never quite had an interview like this with anyone. Now, as your host, I'm going to let myself get a little vulnerable. As I sat here talking to Kenneth, it struck me how the purpose of this show was to expose those bad men, these bad things that are happening on our highways, on our secluded roads. But it exposed something else. It exposed our reaction to somebody that needs help. It sickened me that those first two cars just went on by. That's in us to be able to do that. And then it hit me. Well, Enid, you've done the same thing. Maybe not letting somebody lay along the road. But it hit me that I've already seen somebody that was obviously hurting for whatever reason. And I just kind of walked away. I didn't want to get involved. In fact, there were people, staff people here in our studio, that there was a person that was hurting. And I thought, I don't have time to get involved in her life. And I just kind of said, I'm sorry, and went on. And I know I see people at Bueller's or Walmart or a lot of places where it's pretty obvious they need help, and I choose not to get involved. So I really can't be real critical of those two that drove away. But it exposes something that's in our human nature, and I don't like it. Kenneth, thank you. Thank you for coming today, for sharing your story. You have no idea the impact that has made of our lives. This is your host, Amy Slamiger, for the New Day program, signing off, inviting you to tune in again tomorrow morning.
Now, who would you say was a neighbor to the man who was beaten and robbed?
The one who showed him mercy.
Yes, you're correct. Now go and do the same.